Hello everyone, today I'm going to be editing a photo given to me by Lifestruck on Instagram, and the first thing we're going to do is bring it into Picframe to expand the photo. We're going to use the horizontal 2-panel frame for this, and we're going to bring our original photo into the bottom half and readjust the width of the frames there so there are none, and then move up the border so that you see the entirety of the original photo. And then I've already done this ahead of time. You can see in the middle 2 photos there. That's what it's going to look like when I collage it. I'm going to put a blank gray above her sky, and then I'm going to blend it together in Facetune. So I'm just going to bring that in here so you can see what it looks like. Then I'm going to save that and bring it into Facetune. And using the patch tool, I'm just going to blend that line out of the sky, because the method we're going to be using to put the sky in, we don't want any obstructions above the tree line there. So basically I just keep using a really wide brush to just blend it as much as possible real quick, and it would, in the end, it would be nice and blurred together. And then we're going to take that into Juxtaposer and make it our background. Next, we're going to take the sky that I've decided I'm going to use and load that as the top image. First, you want to double tap with both fingers to make it the same size as your picture, and then you're going to be resizing it to fit the image. You want the top of the cityscape there, like where your sky ends, to meet exactly as much as possible with the natural tree line of the photo. Then what we're going to do is set it to multiply, as I just showed you there. Going to resize it a bit. You can see the trees there. So now you're going to resize it so that it looks as natural as possible, but with that tree line. This is a really simple way of putting a sky in and having it look a little more natural in the photo, and as opposed to having to go in and erase on the edges. I'm just now going to adjust some of the things about the sky, like make it a little more brighter, a little more saturated, a little more contrast. Then I'm going to take a really wide soft edge brush and erase the cityscape from the picture. It's okay if the sky is still a little bit over the trees. What you don't want is to erase the sky above the trees so you can tell that it's like, you know, you'd rather have the sky overlapping the trees than anything else. Because the trees are going to get a lot darker. It will not matter. Then you want to erase the sky over her head so there's no overlap there. Now you want to adjust the background photo to match the sky. I like to use the shadow recovery as opposed to the contrast, because you saw the contrast made it really dark. So shadow recovery makes the shadows a little sharper, and then you can adjust contrast and brightness. Turn up the saturation, make it a little warmer, and bring in more of a purple tint. Now it looks like she's more standing next to a lake in sunset, but the sky should be reflected in the water. What I've done ahead of time is to take the same sky, I brought it into Afterlight and flipped it upside down, and then blurred it in Facetune using the defocus tool. Now I'm going to size it to fit our picture. Unfortunately it's the other way, so I gotta flip it using the flip top image there at the bottom. And then now I'm going to resize it to fit the picture after I adjust some of the settings so that it matches what we did to the sky earlier. Now we're also going to set that to multiply, and you can see her through it. Line it up again so that it's matched with the trees above. Now we want to go in with our erase tool, soft edge brush, and erase this layer over the girl. And it's okay to just kind of like erase it over her and then go in neatly and get the edges. I'm actually being kind of sloppy with this right now. I'd normally be a little more fussy about it, but I've done this 3 times now, so I was a little bit quick about it, sorry. But just to go in and erase around her so that it's nice and neat. Technically that's like way too much of a reflection in the lake, so what we're going to do is soften it up a bit by erasing very gently around the edges, especially over the grass, because the grass would not have, you know, streaks of cloud in them, and near the horizon line and the edges of the photo, especially around her as well. I actually don't like the way it was placed, so now I'm going to readjust it, because when you erase the cityscape, it exposed too much of the lake without any sky reflected in it. So I had to move it up and redo all the edges around her. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes with a small edge, when a small photo and you're trying to erase around the edges, it gets really choppy with Juxtaposer. It's better to leave it kind of soft as much as possible. Now we're going to use the big soft brush and very gently tapping on the iPhone, lightly erase around. That's the only way to get it to just erase a little bit as opposed to erasing all of it. You also want to make sure you're on the low opacity brush. I'm also going to turn down the opacity of the top image as well. And we're going to save that. It's almost done, but there's a few things I'd like to do to it. First, I'm going to take it into Facetune. And you might not be able to see it very well with the resolution of this recording, but the sky is way more in focus than the background behind the girl. I see this a lot with people who are new to editing and they're trying to put a sunset into a picture. It's really important to take into consideration the focus of the existing background behind the model and make certain that the background that you add into the photo matches that. You can even blur the focus of the background even more so that they match together. In this case, I'm blurring the tree line so that it matches the skyline and then brings the focus back to the model and doesn't distract from what you actually want the viewer to look at. You want to make sure you don't blur down too far into the things that are actually in focus in the image. I'm being very careful about how far down with the blur I go into the reflection of the trees. I don't want it to touch near the grass. I'm also going to go back and really carefully blur around her hair, because with Facetune, as soon as it gets close to an object, it creates a halo effect around it. So it can be kind of hard to get a nice, neat blur separation between your subject and the background. So from here it looks okay. I'm just going to go in and really carefully erase and blur around her hair real quick. And then now that that's done, we can save it and put in some lighting effects with lens light. So this is lens light. It's what I do to add in all of that awesome lighting effects that I like to do in my pictures. I'm a big fan of dramatic lighting. So I usually like to use the sun pack or the lights pack. In the lights pack, you'll see those slanted lights there, what I usually like to use. It's important to just experiment with different things, see what's going to work, and oftentimes it's going to be the thing that you least expect that will actually work for you. In this case, I want like rays of sunlight coming out. Normally I might use the light rays in the light pack, as I've been saying. For this one, I'm actually going to use a sun flare though. I'm going to try the Helios first. There's several settings you can adjust with lens light. In this one, I'm going to adjust the aspect, which will stretch the sun. I'm going to turn down the artifacts so they're not that bright. I don't want anything distracting near her face. and the scale to make it bigger and brighter without actually making it too bright. I don't really like where the rays are falling with that one though, so I'm actually going to use a different one and try the same thing, see if that works better. Once again, adjust the aspect, kind of stretch it out, bring the rays sort of where I want them to be in the photo. See, I turned down the brightness, but then I made it bigger, so there is an impact with the rays, but it's not too bright with the source. So at this point, that looks pretty good. I'm going to save that. And now we're going to bring it into VSCOcam to apply a filter and kind of bring it all together. With the filters, I like to just play around. I try on all different ones. I like to go through the whole set and just see all the different directions the photo could go in. There's a lot of different things that each filter will bring into focus. Colors will come into play with different filters. A lot of times I'll save multiple versions of the same photo because I just like the different filters on it. So here's me quickly scrolling through. I like F2, but I think it might be a little bit too bright, so I'm actually going to go with M3 because I feel like it's more natural, especially with the skin tone, and I can add more drama to the background with the other settings that VSCOcam lets you adjust. So I'm going to sharpen it, bring in more contrast, a little bit more of a tint, and basically just play around until I feel that I've adjusted everything I can adjust. One thing I'm taking into consideration with this edit is her skin. I don't want her to get too red, so I want to bring as much color into the background as possible without making her look like a lobster. And once we've finished making all of our adjustments, we have our finished product. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you found this helpful. If you have any further questions for me, you can find me on ask.fm, DM me on Instagram, or you can find me on Tumblr, all under the screen name They Teach. Again, thank you so much for watching.